Today we're going to make an easy bread. You need 6 cups of flour. It can be any flour. Today I'm using just plain white flour. I have mixed some wholemeal flour and some white flour that you could also use, or you can use self-raising flour. Any flour basically will be good for this recipe. We're going to use a tablespoon of white sugar, 2 tablespoons of milk powder. You could put ordinary full fat milk into it if you wanted to. The milk works with the gluten to make your bread really, really light. If you don't have any milk or you have a milk allergy, you can leave it out. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of instant dried yeast. This can go straight into our flour. If you use an actively yeast, you will have to put it into your warm water. And we're going to use 400 millilitres of room temperature water. And we're going to use a very small pinch of salt. So, into my flour, I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of yeast, like this. I'm going to put a pinch of salt. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of my dried milk. As I said, this will make your dough lighter, your bread lighter in texture, and actually it will make your crust a bit crunchier, which is really nice. Just a bit more milk in there. And I'm going to put in a tablespoon of sugar. You can put in less sugar, or you could mix honey in with your water. It all works the same way. Just going to mix all the dry ingredients up like this. Okay, into our dry ingredients, we're just going to make a well in the middle. Pop in some water. And we're going to start mixing this in. Gloopy, and we're just going to keep mixing and keep mixing. As I said, I've used 400 ml of warm water. Depending on the temperature in your kitchen, you may need to use a bit more or a little bit less. You'll be able to tell by how it feels once it's all mixed in, or don't mix it all in if it's going too gluey. This at the moment is fine. Okay, now we're going to get our hands into this and make it into a nice dough. Your hands are going to get ever so messy, I'm sorry about that, but it's just the way it is, it's just the way it's got to be. Now I'm just going to tip this onto the kitchen worktop so we can try and knead the rest of the flour in. This is where we'll decide if we need any more water. If it's too dry, we'll add a bit more water. If it keeps nicely coming together, then we won't need to. It really does depend on what kind of flour you're using. I do find the white flour takes in an awful lot more water than the wholemeal flour. Okay, so it is coming into a nice dough now. You need to knead it for about 5 to 10 minutes really to get all this flour brought into the dough. It's very, very messy and it's very, very sticky, but it will make sure that you have lovely, lovely bread when it comes out of the oven. The kneading actually makes the gluten work. So this is what we need to do. Okay, this is really lovely now. It's really nice and doughy. And when I let go of it, you can see it moving back. This is exactly the way we want it. So we're going to pop this into our mixing bowl. I'm going to cover it with a damp tea towel. And I'm going to leave it on the side for about an hour and a half so it rises, and we'll have another look when we come back to it. Okay, so we've left our bread for an hour and a half, and as you can see it's risen. It's quite a lot bigger than it was. All we're going to do now is we're just going to get a spatula and take it away from the sides of the bowl and just knock the air back out of it. It's lovely and squidgy. There we go. See, it's a lovely dough. And then we're just going to cover it back up and let it rise again for another hour and a half. So we're just going to use the same damp tea towel and cover it back up. Let's put it away from the top of the bowl. Yeah. Right, so our bread's had another hour. We're just going to tip it out onto a surface, onto a floured surface, and then we're going to give it another quick knead before we put it onto our baking sheet. There we are, that looks lovely. Let's just take this out of here. Okay, we're going to knead it and shape it now. Just a little knead, not too much. But look how lovely that is. It's really soft, it's like Play-Doh. And this is going to have another little rise again while the oven is heating up. So we're just going to shape it now, and I think we're just going to make it into a rough round loaf, like this. Actually, I'll just give it a little bit more of a shape. Bring it all up. There we go. I'm going to sit it onto a well-oiled baking tray. And when I say well-oiled, it's about a teaspoon of oil that I've just rubbed around with my fingers so our bread doesn't stick onto it. I'm going to put that in the middle of the baking sheet, and I'm going to cover it again for about half an hour while our oven heats up, and I'm going to put the oven on at 180 degrees. Okay. So this is after half an hour, and it's almost doubled in size, so it's ready to go in the oven. So we're going to put it into the oven at 180 degrees for roughly half an hour. So here's our bread after 30 minutes. If you tap it and it sounds hollow, your bread's done. It smells delicious. We're just going to let it cool on the wire rack. Although I am very tempted to cut it because it smells delicious. Listen to that lovely, crunchy crust. A lovely bread.